And hello, everyone. Let's see, do I have people up there on TrueFire? I have a tablature, and let me pull that up. That's right here. Jeff, do I have a link for the tablature? Because right now I need a link. And it looks like I'm live. Okay, well, if you can't get the tablature, from Jeff, because I don't see the group chat working, let's see if I can try that again. Well, anyway, I'm gonna try to do the event as best as I can, even though I'm not seeing any chat right now. Okay, so what we've got here is on Instagram, and it's on sweep picking, and I've got a mini course. I'm not getting group chat. I don't know why. Jeff is texting me. Can you moderate for me and give me questions? Okay, so Jeff is going to pass some questions my way. So, but I have this, and I'm hoping Jeff will send you a link. If not, it's on my Instagram. My Instagram is Maurice Arenas Guitar. And you can also give me a follow. Well, anyway, here it's talking about sweep picking, okay? And I've got a few mini courses on stuff and a channel. And I'm planning on expanding that. So the first thing that we're going to do is the first example. And that's kind of like the basic arpeggio that you see kind of like metal guys use, okay? And it's going to look like this. So what I'm doing is I'm using my pinky, my middle finger, my index, and then my middle finger, index, and pinky, and then I'm pulling off. So that's going to be one. That's the first example there. We're going to have a second example where we're doing the major arpeggio, and that's going to be using the fourth finger, the ring finger, and the index finger. middle finger, index, and pinky. And the picking stroke is going to be all down, okay? And then up with a pull-off. Now what happens is my sweeping course, it's a mini course, and what it does is it covers my system, my way of doing things, okay? So I'm kind of like a guitar nerd, you know, in terms of like wanting to do things in a real kind of logical, systematic, practical, practicing way. I journal things, you know, the whole kind of thing, log things. And so one of the things that I did was I said, okay, well, if I want to work on my economy picking and sweep picking, well, there has to be a logical, common sense way of doing it where I can get the most bang for my buck, okay? And so what I thought of is, well, the first thing you got to do is 2 strings. And then you go to 3 strings, and then you go to 4 strings, and you go to 5 strings, and then you go to 6 strings. And if you saw my playing earlier, you can see that I do use a lot of sweep picking, but I don't do it kind of like in a metal way. I kind of do it in a bluesy way, you know. So if I'm playing a blues, there's a kind of example, you know, where I'm kind of adding some sweeps and stuff. You know. So what happens is I use sweeping and economy picking, whether it's country, blues, rock, jazz, and I do play metal, so I do use it in metal, of course. But I like using that style over everything. And that's what I wanted to share with you in that mini course, okay? So the first examples are kind of like what guys like Yngwie Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert and, you know, let's see, Jason Becker and guys like that did, okay? Vinnie Moore and all of that. Now, what happened was, you know, I'm kind of giving you a little bit of the evolution of this. I'm giving it to you kind of historically, and then I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the stuff that I do. So then the next 2 examples, what I did is I said to myself, okay, I've got an A major arpeggio. You know, there's my A, right? How can I do something else with it? How can I get a little bit more out of it? Well, if I add an F sharp, now I've got F sharp minor 7. And that's what the next example is there for. Okay? Now, I play that a couple different ways. If you look at the tablature, this is the way I do it in the tablature. Okay? I've got the A major arpeggio, and I'm adding the F sharp. So that's going to give me that sound. Okay? Now you can also add the F sharp in the next octave. It's a little bit harder to do, but that's the other option there. So what I recommend is doing the one that I gave you in the tablature, and then if that gets easy, you can add another hammer on in the middle, which is the E to F sharp. Okay. So that was one example. You know, it's like, okay, well now I've got 2 arpeggios for the price of 1, and all I did was add a note. I added the F sharp. Okay. And then the other thing I would do is I would say to myself, okay, well, what can I do with these? Do I have to just go? No. I want to play rhythmically with it, you know. Okay, so then I would kind of fool around and do different kinds of rhythm and kind of build that way around it. Okay, so that was with the F sharp minor 7 arpeggio, which is on the example 3 on the first page of the tablature. Once again, if you can't find it, you can get it on Instagram. I posted it today. So then the next one is A minor. And I said to myself, well, what could I do with that one? And if I add an F to it, see, here's my A minor triad, and I add an F to it, now I've got F major 7. So then I have another arpeggio, once again, multiplying the one concept I learned, adding one more note to it, and now I have another chord I can take advantage of and use. And then I'm going to give you a kind of a bonus one, okay, that's not in the tablature. If I make it F sharp, here's my A minor chord, and I add F sharp, now I have F sharp minor 7 flat 5, and that's a third chord that you can use as well. Okay? Now what happens is, what would that chord work over? Well, it would work over the 7 chord, but it would also work over a D9 chord. So like if you're playing blues or something, it would work perfectly over that D chord, like a D13 or D7. Okay, so that's another bonus one there out of there. And there are others, but I wanted to kind of cover those to kind of get you started off with the traditional sweeping that you see a lot of people doing. That kind of started with the shred movement. You know, even though there were jazz guys, you know, like Tal Farlow and George Benson and even Wes Montgomery were doing it, you know, in the 50s and 60s. So on the second page is kind of more of my material, you know. And for example, we're going to take a pentatonic scale. Like I always have a lot of people ask me, well, how can I use a pentatonic scale and kind of, you know, economy pick or sweep pick and makes kind of interesting lines with it? Well, you know, one thing you could do is you can pick an interval, and the interval that I picked in the first example on the second page is fourths. So I'm just going 2 downstrokes and 2 upstrokes. Okay, now what happens is you can see that pentatonic box in there. Now, do you have to play it? You could, but you can mix it up as well. You can play it rhythmically. Okay, that's the whole thing. So you learn these things and then you try to add rhythm to them, and you try to add syncopation to them, and you don't play them from beginning to end. I always do it from beginning to end, so I have an area of the fingerboard covered, but it's not necessary when you're improvising. All of these tools are for improvisation. And my system of thinking of improvisation is, okay, I'm going to try to cover a big chunk of the neck, and then I'll play the example straight, and then I'll play it with different kinds of rhythms, syncopated rhythms, tripletizing them, making them 16th notes, even quintuplets, okay? You know, and I'll show you an example later on where I can make a quintuplet out of it, okay? Well, actually, I'll use it with the next example, okay? So the next example, this time it's going to be doing down, up, up, down, okay? And what happens is that's more of economy picking than sweep picking. But once again, I'm using it with the pentatonic scale, okay? And I did it in A pentatonic because that's the most popular key and the most popular box, okay? And so then what happens is I'm going to be going down, up, up, and the up, up is really kind of one stroke. So that's kind of one stroke, and then a downstroke. Okay, and what happens is doing things like that is going to be a whole lot more efficient than alternate picking. Because if I alternate pick, which I can do, I'm adding 25% more picking because I'm adding one more pick stroke out of a pattern of 4. If I do a pattern of 4 with 3 pick strokes, that's 25% less picking. So it's going to be faster. And that was another thing for me. You know, you're going to laugh, but my theory in terms of playing guitar is I want to not work the guitar. I want to play the guitar. So it has to be like play. So I want to make it as easy for my hands as possible. And I don't want to have to use a lot of effort for anything I do. So that's where I'm coming from. So I'm actually thinking lazy, if you can look at it that way. I don't know how else to explain it, but I always look for the laziest way of doing things. So then that way, if I'm playing a gig or I'm playing a session, because I do a lot of studio work, if I play a session, I don't make that many mistakes, you know. Because you make mistakes, you're wasting people's time, okay? And I can't afford to do that. That they won't call me back, you know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm thinking about. But not only that, I get more projects done by doing it that way as well. So I'm always thinking that in the back of my head, you know, play the guitar, not work the guitar. Find the most efficient or lazy way of playing it. And then the other one is, can you take it to the gig? So can I take this concept to the gig? Sure. I mean, I can use it, I can mix it. I can do it in different positions and use it for my improvisation. I can make it a quintuplet. So there I added the 5th note. And there I did a 4. But you got the idea. I did groupings of 5 with a grouping of 4, you know. And it wasn't that far different than what I did before. You see, I'm always taking the concept that I have gotten, the little kernel of knowledge that I've acquired, and I keep adding to it. And that's my practice approach. I'm always taking a little tiny thing, and the little tiny thing was this. That was my little tiny thing, 4 notes. And then I said, okay, well, let me explore those 4 notes. I can explore it this way. And then I can explore it this way. You know, and I would spend, this wouldn't be in one practice session. This would be over the course of weeks, okay? And say, let me explore it this way. Let me explore it this way. Let me explore it this way. And by doing that, it gave me a whole lot of freedom across the whole neck, okay? So that's kind of what I'm trying to share with you. I'm trying to share with you the sweep picking stuff, which I have here, but I'm also trying to share with you a couple other things I want to do. And before I answer some questions. And that is, I want you to think about how you practice and start saying, am I efficient in how I practice? And if you're not, how can I fix it? Okay. Okay, so the next example is the third example on the second page. And once again, I'm just kind of using the pentatonic scale. Okay. And I'm doing groupings of 3. Okay. And this technique utilizes a thing called rolling. So I'm rolling my finger to be able to deaden the string. And if that one's going to take you some time, that one lick might take you a month to get used to. But it's the way I developed it was, okay, I want to work on sweeping, and I want to work on sweeping on 3 strings. So that was down, 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 up, up, up. And then I want to work on rolling. And I want to be able to take it to the gig, and I want to be able to improvise with it. You know, so now I can improvise with it if I want. Okay? So that kind of gives you an idea, you know, of where I'm coming from and how I'm thinking, you know. And talking about that, I'm working on a new course at TrueFire. I'm doing a lot of indie courses. I'm planning on doing a lot of mini courses, okay? And the next one that I'm doing is called Playing the Blues, What I'm Thinking, How I'm Thinking About It, How I Do It, okay? And I'm going to do different mini courses on it. One's going to be arpeggios, one's going to be sweeping, another one's going to be what scale choices I use, because I don't use the traditional scale choices. So all of those things are going to be coming into play. And then I'm going to kind of talk to you just like I am here in how I practice, because I think that's very important as well. And then we got 2 more examples before I start answering questions, okay? The next example is going to be in A minor. And what happens is, if you've got 3 notes per string, starting on G, okay, I've got basically 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8. Okay, that's every string. Okay, so 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8. Okay, so then what happens is, I was like, okay, well, I want to be able to play different arpeggios in different ways. And if you have a 3-note arpeggio, there's going to be 3 ways of playing it. You know, that's the other thing I do. I ponder. I start pondering on what am I going to think next, you know, in terms of the logistics of the guitar and how it works. So I came to the conclusion that, okay, well, there's only 3 ways of doing a triad arpeggio on, you know, if I'm only just doing 3 notes on the guitar. You've got 1 note and then 2 notes, right? And then you have 2 notes and 1 note. So I've got this one and I've got this one, and then I got 1 note each. So I actually explored every one of those, okay? But this example that I have here, the last example on this second page, I'm exploring the 1-2 arpeggio, and I call it 1-2 because it's 1 note then 2 notes. Okay, so there I have A minor, then I have D minor, then I have G, then I have C, and then I have F. And the picking is down, down, up. And I don't like to say down, down, up because I'm really kind of doing down. That's kind of like 1 stroke, and then up. And it's the same thing backwards. except it's reversed. So it's down, up, up. And I don't want to say down, up, up, because the up is one stroke. You got to get used to being able to do that. It's almost kind of like you're strumming a chord. Okay? So that was my system there for building this, building the arpeggios and starting to master the arpeggios. Because if you start thinking about things, because like a lot of people are intimidated about guitar. I was intimidated. Guitar was not easy for me, okay? And so one of the things that I would do is I would, instead of kind of getting depressed and being upset with my playing, like a lot of us do, we kind of beat ourselves up and say, oh, we can be better and all of that. One of the things that I would do is I would say, okay, well, wait a minute. There's only 12 notes. This music is not unlimited. There's limitations. There's only 12 notes in a Western system. And then, okay, a pentatonic scale only has 5 notes. I only have 5 fingers in each hand. The guitar only has 6 strings unless you have a 7th string or more. So all of those things started coming into my mind, and then it was easier. It felt easier. It's just like, you really only have 11 frets because the 12th fret is back. It's starting all over again. The 13th fret is just like the 1st fret. So like all of those things kind of come into play. So, Joe, hello, Joe. You definitely, guys, you got to check out Joe Pinavaya. He's fantastic. He's another TrueFire instructor. You definitely should follow him on Instagram, and you should definitely check out his courses. He's a monster player. I'm glad to see you here, Joe. And then I also got a question. Are you a fan of John McLaughlin? Favorite licks and techniques? Yes, actually I am a fan of John McLaughlin. And actually the pentatonic thing that I did, which was quintuplets, that's a John McLaughlin kind of idea. So I would mix 5s and 4s. And now it sounds like John McLaughlin. So I'm a huge fan of John McLaughlin. I got to meet him a few years back. He's a really nice guy. And I've been listening to him forever. I think my favorite album, and I listened to it, and it's still in my car. I bought the CD, and it's still in my car. Yeah, I'm dating myself. Is Blacklight, and that's a fantastic album. If you don't have that John McLaughlin album, you should definitely check it out. It's still in my car. I listen to it at least once every couple weeks. That's how great it is. So yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I'm a huge fan of John McLaughlin. Today I'm wearing a blues hat. I wear a lot of different hats as a studio musician. Sometimes I'm a country guy. Sometimes I'm a fusion guy, sometimes I'm a jazz guy, but today I'm a blues guy. And I'm wearing that hat to kind of explain kind of how I play, using economy picking and sweeping, but not having to sound like guys like Yngwie Malmsteen. And, you don't have to sound like Frank Gambale. You can sound like, yourself and still include that style. Yeah, Jeff, keep pouring some questions my way. I have, the last example is actually, I already played it. The last example there, I'm going down, up, up, and that's actually another thing McLaughlin would do. He would do a lot of different groupings, and he does triads the same way. He looks at triads the same way. I did a lot of transcriptions of his stuff, and he definitely knows his fingerboard. And the only way you can do that is doing these explorations that I kind of have been sharing with you. There are other things that I wanted to kind of talk about. For example, let me turn the gain off a little bit. Let's say you don't want to you're a blues player and you don't want to hot dog things. You don't want to do any of those kind of things. Okay, that's totally fine. Can you be musical with these arpeggios and these tools I got? Sure. You got to use rhythm. Let's say I take an example like the first arpeggio I gave you, right? There, I kind of did it with a jazz feel, and I'm still using it, but I'm not sweeping it as much anymore. And that's more of a jazz feel. And then bends into double stops. Well, I do a lot of things with double stops. You're kind of opening a big can of worms. Let's say, for example, if you're talking about like country stuff, for example. I like doing a lot of country stuff, and I play double stops, and I like doing stuff like Jerry Reed. And then I'll also do notes like this, where I have a chord, and then I'll bend it up. I do a lot of stuff like that. You have to know your fingerboard really well. Let's say, for example, if I'm playing an A, I know that this is going to be an A chord when I bend it. I know that this is going to be an A chord when I bend it. And I'll do like some of the David Grissom stuff. Where I'm kind of adding a pedal tone. And then I also do hybrid picking, where I start adding sixths and stuff. Yeah, so like in terms of double stops, I do a lot of stuff like that. The guys that I listen to, in terms of country and I also country rock and Texas. David Grissom is definitely one of them, which is actually why I'm using this guitar today, because it gives me a nice kind of bluesy sound. So he's a big one. Which I also got to thank you, David. Thank you for featuring me on your Instagram. I really appreciate that. You're a wonderful guy. I had to say that. I got to give you a shout out. And get his courses, guys. But yeah, he does a lot of stuff like that. And then also Jerry Reed. I learned a lot of Jerry Reed, Chet Atkins, Jerry Donahue, the Helicasters. If you haven't heard Donahue, you definitely need to check him out. Of course, Albert Lee, another wonderful guy. And I got to say hi to Albert as well. Fantastic player and does a lot of wonderful stuff with double stops. In terms of, you got to know where the chords are. For example, like this would be A as well. And let me lose the overdrive. So you got to know where all the chords are. And you got to be able to know where, you got to be able to say, okay, well, this is going to be A. Right? That's A. And then you got to say, okay, well then I want to be able, and then I got to go to D. And there's your D. See? And then I want to go back to A. You know, so like that's kind of some of the stuff that is tricky about country, because country is kind of like jazz. You're going to change according to the chord. Like if you're going to be playing an A chord, that's the sound that you're going to be getting, which is kind of like an A minor pentatonic. And an A major pentatonic. Oops. But put together. So then you wind up getting one scale put together. And that's where you get all those notes. Yeah, so there, but here's the funny thing about country. That same scale, if I change it around, and I change my tone around a little bit, now I got jazz. Trying to be funny, but I guess I couldn't be. Well, anyway. So what happens is when I'm playing jazz, I'm actually using the same scales as country. I'm mixing major and minor pentatonic. And you wind up getting, you know, an elongated scale with blue notes that way. And you have to emphasize the notes in the chord. Once again, you got to kind of know your chord tones. So you got to know that A, C sharp, and E and G are going to be the ones you want to land on. See, I'm landing on C sharp. There I landed on A. There I landed on G. Yeah, so you know that's the big part about country. Could you do it with licks? You could, but it's good. Like if you want to master it, like Vince Gill and Brent Mason and Albert Lee, you gotta know where those chords lie and kind of land on those chords. You know, so it's like if I have A7 here and then D7. It's the same for jazz as well. You know, it's easier if you can see those chords there lying there. And then we got another question here. Throw some more questions my way, Jeff. I also want to talk about other things. One of the things that I think is important in my style of playing is dynamics, you know, and kind of like, you know, I call it putting the English in it. I don't know if you guys have ever played billiards or pool or anything like that. But what I mean by that is like you put a spin on the ball and that helps you get the balls in the little pockets, the corner pockets and stuff. Well, it's kind of the same thing when you're playing blues or you're playing blues rock or country. You know, country's got the chicken picking. So you got to have that pop, and you got to have the, you know, single coil kind of sound, you know. Gives it a more authentic sound, right? And then, you know, the jazz sound's got to be warm, and you're not going to really bend strings much. You're going to be doing more slides, you know, or you know. So yeah, so the jazz style, you're not going to be really doing bends or, you know, pre-bends or quarter bends or any of that kind of stuff. It's going to be more slides, octaves, sweep picking, things like that. Chords, you know, be throwing stabs, what they call stabs. And then the blues, you know, and blues rock, you know, which is something I really enjoy doing. You know, you could take one idea, you know, like a basic lick, and, you know, you take a lick like that, and if you do it fast, see, it changes the character. And then if you take the bend and you keep pulling that bend, that changes the character as well, you know. How you bend changes the character. Adding quarter bends, you know, mini bends, what I call mini bends, you know, you're not really bending into the next note. Okay, so there I changed my picking. I changed the picking, the angle of my pick, you know. Sometimes I'm hitting it with an angle like that just to give me a little bit of a different flavor, you know. I also don't pick the same volume, you know, so that's another thing I'm thinking about. See, by playing softer, I made you want to listen to me and say, "What is he doing?" And you kind of start leaning up against it, you know. Like those are kind of the things that I'm kind of talking about. So that's something you guys should think about. Guys like David Gilmour really do think those things through. That's why he's such a soulful player, you know. Any technique insights to gypsy jazz? Oh my, that's a good one. Um, well, sweep picking will definitely help you there. Because like in gypsy jazz, you have a lot of like the diminished arpeggio. So that would be one technique, because like guys like Django, they would do the diminished arpeggio a lot. And then they also would do, you know, like minor arpeggios. So there I kind of gave you. You know, so there I kind of gave you an example of where I used that same arpeggio. trying to be funny, but yeah, I was trying to be funny, but I sometimes I can't be, I guess. Yeah, so like there, I did A minor, and I used that, and I was rhythmic, and I used gypsy jazz rhythms. You know, see, that's the other thing. Each style has its own rhythm to it. You know, and then I did D minor. Kind of, I did a progression similar to minor swing, right? And then I did E7 or E. That would work as well. And then if you got E, you can use G sharp diminished. That's diminished from the third of the chord. So that would be. So that would be from the third of the chord. And you'll see that often as well. So I practiced it with a lot of different rhythms, you know. And then I ended on the Twin Peaks chord. You know, I really wish I could see your chat, but I don't know why my chat's not working. But Danny Gatton, oh my, yeah, there we go, another monster. Yeah, Danny Gatton does a lot of really kind of interesting and crazy things. That's one of them. So he would take octaves and banjo roll them. There's a lot of things that I stole from him. Actually, I played a lick earlier that I stole from him. If I'm doing it over A7, I would do a chromatic line. So let's say I have A7. Okay, so I have A7. And you can play sixths in A mixolydian. So it's the same notes as D major, but you're emphasizing A7. That's what A mixolydian means. So we got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then we go back. So it's basically like an A shape, and then kind of like a C shape. And then you got A shape on the fifth, A shape on the seventh, kind of like a C shape on the eighth, and a C shape on the 10, right? And then you're back to kind of like an A shape on 12 and 14, right? So one thing that he would do, and I got to change my sound again. This guitar came in handy because it also kind of sounds like a telly. So one of the things that he would do is he would do chromatics. He would add chromatic passing tones between the ones that are in common. So that's one of the things. Another thing, yeah, so like, so I'll play that again. Oops. You know, so he would do stuff like that. I'm trying to kind of do it slow, and I'm not trying to go too crazy. You know, like I was thinking about showing you some of the double octave roll thing, but some people have a hard time just doing that. I remember having a hard time doing that myself. Yeah, so that was one of the things that he did. He liked doing a lot of double stops and stuff like that. Another thing that he would do is add a chromatic, you know, like you'll have, let's say, for example, this is the sound that I'm doing, right? Which is like an A shape on on the 14th fret. Well, you'll go down a whole step, so I'll be down on the 12th fret. And now I've got you get these like chromatic runs like that. You know, and that's another thing that I took from him. So by doing that, I'm always a whole step away, and I'm adding 2 chromatic notes. And then I do that again. And then I do that again, down a fret. And then I do it 9, 10, 11, and then I hit the 10 there. And you can hear that. That's in Jimmy Rogers songs, you know. So like, you'll hear these things again and again from other people, you know, as well. I think he used to yodel that, if I remember correctly. You know, and then if you take it all the way down. So yeah, so like that's one of the things I took from him. Also getting used to doing banjo rolls. That's pretty important as well. I play banjo as well. When you're a studio musician, that's the other thing. You get stuck in a lot of kind of crazy situations, and you have to kind of say, "Oh God, I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to do that." You know, because you know it gives you more opportunities. So I play banjo as well, and yeah, so banjo rolls come pretty smoothly for me. Generally, I usually do the Albert Lee style, which is going to be using my pinky and fingers. You know, like if I'm doing Chet Atkins, I'm using, I actually can use this. I don't have to use a thumb pick. But I do like using Hercos, the Herco picks, which is what's traditional for that style. And if you go to my Instagram, you will see me doing Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed, Wes Montgomery, you name it, B.B. King, Stevie Ray, you know, a lot of different styles. So, but yeah, so, you know, I'm too musical ADD to stick to one. And my channel kind of shows that. You know, that's another thing you should check out at TrueFire. And if you like what I've given you so far here, you know, you can always, at TrueFire, I also offer lessons, like a one-on-one lesson. So you can just say hi to me there and sign up. And I can assess your playing as well. So do we have any other questions, Jeff? That's a big, you guys opened huge cans of worms. I love it. You'd like me to play a solo, like a guitar solo, or a, would you like me to do it with a backing track, without a backing track? Would you like me to do just guitar by itself? You know, something, you know, let's say like I could do Misty or something like that. I'll be willing to do whatever you want. I'll just wait. I'm waiting for Jeff to let me know. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about doing something over, let's see, I'll pull up a B.B. King song. See how I play loud and soft? So there I use that arpeggio. Another thing I like to do is mix rhythms and take one rhythm and do something with it. So there I took one rhythm, now I do another one. So there I took that rhythm that I showed you. So that kind of gives you an idea. That kind of gives you an idea of kind of like what I'm thinking. You know, I tried to use some of the examples in here. I really did my best to try to give you some of those examples in that solo there, where I actually did the arpeggio here, and I did it rhythmically too, you know. And then I also did another example out of that, you know, as well, you know, and trying to be musical with it, you know. Because that's what it really is all about anyway, you know. I mean, if we're just kind of doing this, you know, it's cool for other guitar players, but we want to also make the audience, you know, people who aren't guitar players dig it, you know. So I always kind of think that in the back of my mind. So I always think about groove and rhythm and how can I take one rhythm. How can I put a groove in there somehow, you know? You know, and I had people ask me, well, how can I work on my rhythm? And one little trick I can tell you is you can think of words. You know, let's say, for example, and this will be my last trick of today. Let's say, for example, triplet is bicycle for me. So bicycle, 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 bicycle. Let's say a quintuplet, you know, something that's pretty, you know, like John McLaughlin uses quintuplets, you know, Alan Holdsworth did too. To me, that's David Letterman, David Letterman. Or if you're a Sesame Street fan, Snuffleupagus, Snuffleupagus. You know, so you don't. I mean, it's not necessary to read music to learn rhythm. You can find ways around that, and I'm pretty sure that you can find other rhythms. Let's say like 2/8 notes and a quarter note, apple pie, apple pie, apple pie. You know. You know, a 16th note gallop to the dump, to the dump, to the dump. So that's 16th with an eighth, you know. So, you know, thinking those kind of things kind of also helps me in terms of developing a solo. And I've had a lot of people ask me, because I've coached a lot of professionals. Sometimes professionals run into a rut and they want some advice, you know, how, because they're doing a new album and they want to sound fresh. And one of the things that I do is I talk to them about adding new rhythms because people have their own favorite rhythms. So that's something that you should also ponder and you know, kind of explore. And then when you do find certain rhythms that you can incorporate into your style, you know, you can practice them away from the guitar. You can practice them waiting at a red light. That's what I do, you know. So you got to the dump, to the dump. You know, snuffleupagus, snuffleupagus. Bicycle, 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 bicycle. You know, and then you can mix them, you know. But yeah, so like those are kind of some of the things that I like to talk about, you know, and share. I'm going to wrap up. Jeff, is there one more question, and I think I'm going to wrap up. Kind of end on a positive note. Kind of weird why my live chat didn't work. I mean, the box popped up, but it's not doing anything. Weird. Um, I hope I've answered a lot of questions for you guys, and I hope I also created some, because by creating some, um, it also makes you learn. You know, having questions and getting them answered is good, but also developing new questions is always good. And I mean, I've been playing for 40 some odd years, and I still have questions on how to do things with this. And I'm always looking to find new answers, new solutions. So that's a healthy way of doing it. Um, I guess I'll leave on that note. So I'm sorry I couldn't answer any more questions, but I do hope that you enjoyed this. And like I said, this is on my Instagram, and then Jeff also should have a link for you guys so you can download the PDF. And like I said, follow me on Instagram, Maurice Arenas Guitar. I do different stuff every week, different styles from classical guitar on. I do, you know, you name it. You'll see Jerry Reed one week, heavy metal the next week, and then after that blues, down home blues and stuff. So yeah, check me out. I plan on having some lessons on the live, and then I also want you to remember. And one last thing, I almost forgot. I have a Powerhouse channel at TrueFire. You need to check me out over there too. I'm putting a lot more content in there this month. So please check that out. And then um, my new course on sweep picking, which is much more in depth than this is up there in my channel store at TrueFire. So go to my channel, check out the indie courses. You'll find my sweeping course. It's at a special price, $9.99. So definitely get it up. It's a lot of material. I'm not expecting you to learn that all in a month. Trust me, it's going to take you probably 6 months to a year, but it's a lot of good stuff in there. And that's a mini course. And I plan, like I said, my next mini course will probably be up there in about a month, and that's going to be blues. So I'm going to have different chapters in blues, and I'm also going to have different chapters in jazz, fusion, and I'm hoping to do country and some fingerstyle at one point as well. All right. Once again, thank you for having me. I'm sorry for the glitches. I guess, I guess we made the best out of it, and I'll see you next time.